Media Services Network, Maxis Global CEO Lindsay Pattison was in the capital for a leadership summit last week. And being the only woman on WPP's 18-member board, we couldn't have got a better guest this week to share her thoughts on the existing gender gap in the industry, along with, of course, some significant insights and her plans for Maxis. Take a look. Welcome to Grandstand, Lindsay. It's been around a year and a half since you took charge as the global CEO at Maxis, and of course you're familiar with the Maxis system and are a media service business veteran yourself. Could you tell us about some of the milestones in your journey so far?
God, I don't like the word veteran, it makes me sound really old. As a global network, we were only formed in 2008. So I was the first UK CEO, and it was a really exciting time because we were beginning to put CEOs in place in markets all over the world. So it's the start of a new network for WPP and for Group M, so it was exciting. So we went from 30 to 250, and we enjoyed incredible growth by leaning into the resources of Group M and WPP and winning some fantastic clients. And then the step up to global CEO was a huge honour. I'm surrounded by a brilliant exco team.
You've changed the agency's mission from leaning in change to leading change. Is it merely a shift of linguistic gears, or should we expect anything more coming up from Maxis?
Leaning or lean in makes sense to native English speakers. In some markets it translates as tilting, and tilting isn't a particularly great word. It sounds a bit unsteady. And in China I think it translated as falling downstairs, which is not very good. So that was kind of a taxonomy issue. But I also think, you know, leaning into change is great, but leading change is much more powerful and much more impactful.
Given the current scenario, you now have data and technology choices in addition to the media choices that already existed that you had to advise your clients on. How do you think is the media business, or Maxis specifically, coping up with this transition?
What we're doing this year is thinking about technology from two perspectives, actually. So firstly, internally, actually taking a good long hard look at our own business. What technology do we need in our own business to make sure we are systemised and automated and sharing best practice? And then secondarily, of course, how do we use technology for our clients? How do we provide a technology consulting business, which we launched just last month? How do we provide expertise across platforms, across ad serving, across DSPs and DMPs and the world of programmatics?
While most people think that technology is responsible for the biggest impact on your industry, a very small percentage of people think that the industry is ready to cope with it. Where do you think lies the gap or the problem?
I think the issues are that most clients have tons of data in different systems, and they find it very hard to join things up. And we all talk very grandly about put an API and you can plug it in. Actually, it's generally much more complex than that, which is why the technology consulting business we've launched is helping clients understand where all their data sits, on what systems, and how to make it truly useful.
What do you think is the biggest concern for the industry's future?
Gosh, that's a big question. I think because we are shifting to a much more digital world, so in the mature markets, digital will account for 50% of the media expenditure. Here in India, it's actually only about 13%, so some way to go. And there's increasing noise and concerns in the area of digital around ad blocking, around viewability, around ad fraud, and we have to do a lot as an industry to work out how we tackle all of those issues.
How would you rate Maxus India's performance in the last year? 2015 saw Maxus lose its numero uno status to Mindshare at the MVs, and even according to the RECMA roster, Mindshare has toppled Maxus. Do you see 2016 seeing the return of Maxus India?
Of course. Yeah. You know, awards are funny, aren't they? We will pick and choose where we win Agency of the Year, and we won Agency of the Year in many different awards. And Mindshare, who are a lovely sister agency, who we like a lot, have also won some awards. So if we've got two super strong Group M agencies, then that's great, because it's better to have healthy competition amongst sisters than it is. As long as we keep everyone else down, that's okay. But I think Maxus India is a star market for us. It's a top 5 market for Group M, India as a market, and Maxus India is a top 5 market for us. And we look to India for two things. One, for innovation and being entrepreneurial with tons of new products and new research initiatives all the time. And we also look to them for creativity and effectiveness.
And do you have any specific targets for Maxus India? Because digital may be the way forward, but according to Group M's TY report, print is still riding high in India.
Yeah, I mean, TV and newspapers are surprisingly strong. They're surprisingly strong if you come from a UK background or a US background. But digital is the area of growth and opportunity. But we're strong, I think we're very strong digitally, and we have some great initiatives tying up with Internet of Things Bangalore, some new research, Synapse research, which looks at correlating traditional media, so TV in this instance, with social buzz. And then we're also looking at how you tie up TV with search results as well.
We just read about Mindshare setting up a full-service agency for Nippon Paints in Malaysia, and there are obviously other units like Mindshare Fulcrum and MEC Red Fuse. Obviously, this is a very profitable route to take to maximize revenues. What is Maxus's gambit on that front?
We've always had a very strong content division for Maxus, actually driven here out of India, but now Ajit, who used to run India but now runs our Asia Pacific region, has taken that model out over to Singapore and is spreading that across. We create content by ourselves, we create content in partnership mainly with media vendors, is a very successful model. And we also create content continuously in SEO in our social teams, because we're creating content and we're serving that with dynamic optimization all the time. We're not going to set ourselves up as a competitor to JWT or Ogilvy. You know, we are at heart a media agency, but what we can do in terms of helping understand and influence and partner up with media owners in the production of content, I think is the direction we'll go in.
The Maxus website boasts of the fact that Maxus has WPP's first female media agency global CEO. Is that really a big deal?
I think sadly it is a big deal, because I'm actually the only global media CEO, full stop, all over the world for any OpCo. I can only think of one other marketing services global CEO, Jean Lin, here in Asia for Isobar. We have a couple in WPP in the area of PR and health, but there just aren't enough senior women at the top of our business. We're very good locally and we're very good regionally, but in terms of global leaders, far too few. So the stats bear it out. In every market, in every industry, there just aren't enough senior women in the top positions, and I think we need to do something about it.
The reason for asking this is again that your website says that 40% of senior leadership around the world are women, and that the gender pay gap is only of 4%.
Yeah, we started by looking at, you know, who we consider to be our most senior leaders around the world. What is that percentage? So that's 40% of our senior leaders, which is great. But actually, when I look at our regional and global excos, our boards, it drops down to 24%. Less good. And then again, we conducted a survey into our top 12 markets to look at the pay gap between men and women at the senior, middle and junior level. And it's 4% when I normalise the data, but it's variable by market and it's variable by level. But at least I now know what our start point is, and we can begin to work and understand why there's that gap and look to try and close it. But globally, the gap is 23%. So we are much better than the global average. But here in India, I think India, it's Maxus is okay, but your ranking, I think the World Economic Forum does a ranking of gender gaps, and I think you're ranked, I think it's 99th, something not great.
So what is it that gives Lindsay Pattison sleepless nights? What worries you about tomorrow?
What worries me about tomorrow? Having to go and present to WPP's budget meetings always. I sleep pretty well, actually, because I think I've had 5 great years Maxis in the UK and a year and a half now in my global role, and we've had growth every single. And if I feel that I'm setting the conditions for success, then hopefully I'm enabling and empowering everyone else to go and deliver it. So as long as I'm being true to myself and trying to do the best job I possibly can, then I sleep well.
Well, here's to more such happy, peaceful nights for you, and hoping for a better year for women all over. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Pleasure.